Hi, everybody, and welcome back. We are now going to cover neutralization theory, which was developed by two theorists named Sykes and Matza. This was originally developed as a theory for juvenile delinquency, looking to explain why juveniles commit crimes rather than focusing on adult criminality. Most theories focus on trying to explain adult criminality, but there are a handful, like Sykes and Matza, that look to specifically explain juvenile delinquency. So Sykes and Matza disagreed with our ecological theories, right? They said, look, if the environment is what provokes criminal behavior, there would be more people who lived in disadvantaged areas that should be engaging in crime, or everybody who lives in a disadvantaged area should be engaging in crime all the time. But that's not the case. And if that's not the case, they argue, well, then ecological theories are wrong, right? So if they're wrong, how do we explain crime? How do we explain juvenile delinquency? And what they wanted to look at specifically is that juveniles conform in most ways. In life, right? They follow most rules. However, the outlier is law breaking. Law breaking is a little bit of the outlier. And they want to know, is delinquency a blip on the radar? Is it just a random thing that sort of happens? It's a part of growing up. Everybody sort of dips their toe into the delinquency pool for like a moment and then they pull it back out and they move on. Or is this a lifelong predictor? Is it an issue where if you are engaging in delinquency as an adolescent, you are going to be an adult criminal? So that's the overarching question they're asking. Is delinquency a quirk, a blip, a growing pain, or is it indicative of you long term and your behavior long term into adulthood? So Sykes and Matza argued juvenile delinquents are committed to conventional standards, and conventional standards is just a fancy phrase for saying they conform, they follow the rules, they follow the laws. Most juvenile delinquents follow most rules, follow most laws, right? They know the difference between right and wrong. They know the difference between what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior, and most of the time they conform to that. If this is the case, Sykes and Matza wonder, how is it possible to violate convention, right? How is it possible to violate norms and rules and laws if you know the difference between right and wrong? How is it possible for juveniles who conform to the rules and the laws most of the time to break them sometimes, right? If they know it's wrong, if they know it's illegal. So Sykes and Matza argue that delinquency is possible in people who are committed to social convention, or juveniles who are committed to the rules, so long as they can escape that conventional control of society. How do they do this? So Sykes and Matza say, well, here's how they do it. They use something called neutralization. Neutralization is just a fancy term for making excuses or justifying behavior that is inappropriate. You know the behavior is wrong. You know you broke the rules. You know the laws are wrong, but you come up with an excuse or a justification as to why it's not wrong in the instance when you did it. We have all engaged in neutralizations, right? Whether it's getting caught by our parents doing something bad, whether it's disagreeing with a spouse or significant other. We all use neutralizations to justify our actions. But Sykes and Matza are saying, okay, there is an instance in which these juveniles know what they're doing is wrong, but they neutralize the influence of those social conventions, the weight of this is wrong, by neutralizing it through justifications. Through these techniques of neutralization, they free themselves from social convention. If I can neutralize the social convention, if I can argue my way out of why it's not the same when I do it, or when I did it, or why when I did whatever, fill in the blank, when I did that, it wasn't wrong. It was okay. It was justified because blank. If I can make that neutralization, that justification, that argument, then I can free myself of those social constraints of rules and laws, and I'm free to deviate into breaking them. Okay, so essentially, like I said, they exercise those neutralizations to free them from moral and social constraints from a certain act, but they're still not rejecting social convention overall, right? And I think most of us have experience with this at some point growing up, and that this is something specific to adolescent development, that we can argue away our culpability in one instance that is a social convention, but at the same time, we can turn around and say, hey, that's wrong, don't do it. And I would never do that, right? Because We utilize the neutralization when it's us. So according to Sykes and Matza, there are 5 techniques of neutralization, and we're going to define each one. The first is the denial of responsibility, right? We've all done this. This is a very common neutralization, justification, or defense in the face of crime, be it juvenile or adult crime. But this idea that, it's not my fault. Some other great force made me do it. My friends made me do it. I wouldn't have done this, but they forced me to do it, right? It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault, right? I'm a victim of circumstance here. Yes, I know this is wrong, but my friends made me do it, etc. So you're denying responsibility, that even though you were involved and you caused harm, somehow it's not your responsibility because, your friends made you do it. Number 2 is denial of injury. This is a very, very, very common response to misdeeds overall, be them law-breaking or not, right? That my actions didn't really hurt anyone, or they didn't really hurt anything, and they didn't really cause a problem, so therefore I didn't do anything wrong, right? I mean, nobody got hurt, so does it matter, right? It was, we hear this a lot with like, it was supposed to be a joke, denying that injury. Or, here she's not hurt that bad, they're overreacting. Or, a good example for when this would be, a neutralization would be used as an adult is people who embezzle money. Say, well, I'm just taking money from this big, nameless, faceless corporation that treats its employees terribly. So, they don't even miss it. They have billions, right? Well, you still broke the law. You still did something wrong. But the reason you were allowed to do it is you told yourself, you denied the harm. The harm doesn't exist. You neutralized the social convention. Number 3 is the denial of the victim. And this is where you basically argue, hey, that person's a bad person. They deserve what they got. Right? Well, whether they're a bad person or not, right? If somebody gets beat up or somebody gets mugged or somebody gets killed or what have you, still a crime, right? I will never forget, I was teaching somewhere and there was a really bad assault on campus. It was a small campus, and people were saying, yeah, but that guy, he has a mouth, and he was running his mouth, and the other guy beat him up so bad the guy had to be airlifted by a helicopter to the hospital. I mean, it was a really bad assault. Okay, he's got a mouth, and okay, he's a jerk, right? And nobody likes him, but that doesn't mean we go pulverizing the crap out of people and that it's okay, right? That we send them into Lifeline, right? So denial of the victim, that the victim doesn't matter because he or she sucks because fill in the blank, right? Victimization is victimization. Number 4 is condemning the condemners. It's okay to break the law because other people break the law. People in power break the law. The politicians, the police officers, they all break the law. They condemn me. How dare they condemn me? They break the law all the time, right? So it's the old, well, because you do it, I can do it. Right. And because somebody who's more powerful than me does it, it doesn't matter that I do it because I don't have that power in society. Right. And all these other people are doing it. So what? So what if I do it? Right. And the final neutralization is appealing to higher loyalties. I had to break the law or I would have lost my integrity or I would have lost my morality. So I had to beat this guy up because he was beating my friend up. And yes, I put him in the hospital. But what was I going to let him stand there and put my friend in the hospital? Right? Appealing to higher loyalties. I did this for some purpose greater than myself. And therefore, it's okay. Right? Or I murdered him because he was beating his kids. Right? Well, murder is still murder. Crime is still a crime. And you are okay most of the time not murdering people. So how did you free yourself from that convention? Well, you neutralized it through an appeal to higher loyalties. So Sykes and Matza argue that we find a way to neutralize those social conventions and their influences that keep us from deviating into crime by neutralizing, justifying, and arguing them away.